explain for people who haven't seen this footage just what happened?
As you say, this is a town called Vinnytsia, which is a long distance away from any of the front lines or conflict areas. And people were just going about shopping. One of the places that suffered horrifically was a medical clinic, which was being visited by parents bringing their children for treatment. People were shopping. Sirens had gone off, warning of an air raid, but that's been a daily occurrence for throughout the war now. And apart from at the very beginning of the conflict, when the airport and railway infrastructure was hit by Russian missiles, it hasn't been subjected, Vinnytsia, the town, hasn't been subjected to attacks. So lots of people ignored the warnings. And these rockets, these missiles, which were guided missiles launched from a Russian submarine in the Black Sea, just hit the place completely unexpectedly. And one of the most horrific images is of a pram overturned, and the little girl, who's called Elisa, 4 years old, was killed alongside with her mother. They were going to this medical center. Inside the medical center, two more kids, a 7 and 8 year old boy from different families, were killed along with at least one of their parents. And so far, the death toll has been of confirmed deaths has been 23, with 8 people still missing and probably dead in the rubble, or have been so badly hit that they haven't been able to be identified.
And I mentioned that this, people are saying this is yet another war crime. I mean, will there be any particular repercussions to this? It's an awful incident, but I suppose it's the nature of a war in which, being waged by Russia, who seem to have a total disregard for the rules.
You're right. I mean, people have been demanding, have been calling this a war crime, yet another war crime. A supermarket was hit a couple of weeks ago in a town called Kremenchuk in Poltava province. And we know that hospitals and schools have been regularly hit. The Russians always deny it. They'll typically say that it was a Ukrainian military base without any evidence that it was. And certainly what happened yesterday in Vinnytsia, there were no troops there. Or they'll say that the Ukrainians have done it themselves to make the Russians look bad, which is absurd. And we know that in the areas that they've occupied, they've shown very little kindness or regard for the people that they've captured. And on the contrary, lots of them have been executed, or they've disappeared without trace, or they've been deported to remote areas of Russia. So you're right. The Russians don't seem to care what sort of pain and horror they inflict. And there will be calls for this to be investigated and to see whether they can actually find a military chain of command that gave the order to fire those missiles. But what they say is that these are very sophisticated missiles. They won't fire unless the precise coordinates of what they're supposed to be hitting have been entered. They're, as I said, fired from submarines. So they're some of the most sophisticated and accurate weapons that the Russians have. So saying it was some kind of mistake doesn't really work.